Today, we wrap up our Silver Screen Slashers triple feature series with Michael Powell's 1960 exploration of voyeurism, repression, sex, and violence. The cameras are clicking, the compulsions are winning, and self-reflection has never looked so frightening as we turn the camera from victim to villain to meet a monster with a penchant for pictures and an eye for agony. The one and lonely Mark Lewis in Peeping Tom.
You're listening to How I Met Your Monster, a podcast that explores the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. My name's Zach.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Casey.
And together we dive into the world of horror to find out how filmmakers have introduced us to our favorite monsters time and time again. This is How I Met Your Monster.
You opened it. We came.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left.
Who are you? Explorers in the further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others.
Call you meatloaf? Surprise, Sydney.
Welcome to How I Met Your Monster, the show where we discuss the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. Make sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to help support the show, make sure to visit shop.fangoria.com/howimetyourmonster for 20% off your entire Fangoria purchase. Just visit shop.fangoria.com/howimetyourmonster and enter promo code howimetyourmonster at checkout, and you will get 20% off, and you will help support our show, How I Met Your Monster. So we can talk about more silver screen slashers like today's slasher. That was a lot of slashers.
Oh, yeah.
Today we're talking about Peeping Tom.
Slash your way through savings. Slash the price off of your Fangoria cart.
That's right.
As you listen to Silver Screen Slashers. As you listen to our Silver Screen. It's not happening today. I can't say any words. You get what I'm saying, guys.
I do.
Yeah.
You can slash the price on your Fangoria cart.
We can't say words today.
And then you can listen to more episodes like today's episode on Peeping Tom.
What we're trying to say is you can slash your monies while you listen to us slash some funnies.
Danny, you are on point today.
Hell yeah.
But Danny, this is your pick in our Silver Screen Slashers triple feature. And I would say it's a nice one to round out the other two movies.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, wow, I forgot because I hadn't seen this movie in a few years. And the fact that we're doing Silver Screen Slashers, and then it's a movie that's literally about someone who works on the silver screen, or at least adjacent to the silver screen, and like with cameras. I was like, look at that. Perfect.
He does work on the silver screen, Danny. He keeps that fainting actress in focus the whole time.
That's a good point. Mm-hmm. Well, I stand corrected.
Okay, Danny, since you picked this, could you go ahead and read the synopsis for Peeping Tom?
I sure can, Zach. The synopsis is...
Thank you, Danny.
You're welcome. In Peeping Tom, a young man murders women using a movie camera to film their dying expressions of terror.
Wow. So
pretty on the nose.
Okay, so a young man murders women using a movie camera to film their dying expressions of terror. But if you just put the punctuation differently, a young man murders women using a movie camera to film their dying expressions of terror. Because he does. He uses the tripod with the fucking knife on it.
Because he literally kills them with the tool in which he's using to film them.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
It's pretty
cool.
great.
Yeah, so this was a first time watch for me. Danny, you just said you saw it a few years ago. This was my first time watch.
Yes.
Casey, what about you?
I was also a virgin. A Peeping Tom virgin.
Oh.
So wait, does that mean you're a Peeping Tom is a virgin? Or
I don't know. I haven't seen the movie before.
At being a Peeping Tom? Okay, gotcha. You popped your You popped your peep.
Ooh, I wonder if
you popped your peep.
I wonder if a lot of Peeping Toms are virgins. Because they've got like this weird thing where it's
they
like
get off on the visual, not the physical.
Yeah. Someone should take a poll.
It's funny. I mean, we'll obviously get into it, but this movie's a lot about there's like, sexual repression and shame and all that plays a big part. But they don't really, at least they don't show it, but they don't really lean into this being a sexual thing for him. It's more just like this fascination. I mean, we'll break it down. Like I have so much to ask and say and I guess like hypothesize about like why Mark Lewis, the monster in this movie, why he does what he does. It's very complex. It's very layered. I'm not even sure if there is one specific reason why he does it. Maybe like we'll all come in with something we all have the right answer. Maybe there really is just one. I don't know. But it is very complex.
Yeah.
And that's part of, I mean, aside from like the aesthetics, this movie is beautiful to look at. All those colors. And I have a soft spot for the 60s. But yeah, that's why I love this movie. There's just a lot it has great rewatch value because of what it's trying to say.
Okay. One thing that was confusing to me was that his name's not Tom.
I know. But his last name was Peeping.
Mark B. Peeping.
What if his name was Peeping, or like, and like the guy looks at his name like in the list and it's like Tom Peeping.
Mark
He's
Peeping.
like, and it's like this, in those movies where like the detective like figures something out by like moving literal physical pieces around like a name, like I am Lord Voldemort, Tom Marvolo Riddle, but he just like sees his name like on the call sheet, Tom Peeping, and he like moves it around and it's just Peeping Tom. He's like, and that's how he knows it's him.
The big reveal, just switching the two names.
Yeah.
No, but you know what? I know it's funny. So clearly Peeping Tom is a term. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, Peeping Tom is a person who derives sexual pleasure from secretly watching people undressing or engaging in sexual activity.
It's voyeurism.
And voyeurism, yeah. So apparently the origin of the term Peeping Tom is from the mid-18th century. It was supposedly the name of the person who had watched Lady Godiva ride naked through Coventry. Oh. And that's where the term Peeping Tom came from.
His name must have been Tom.
Maybe. I guess so.
And he must have been touching his pee-pee.
Or not. Or just watching. And
Tom peeping.
Tom. There's a Tom Petty joke in there somewhere. But yeah, so like you said, Danny, we'll get into it. But I think he does, like in the opening scene, he kind of like gets off. Because like he kills the lady and then he's at his home watching on the screen. And then you see him like stand up and then he kind of just like slumps back down in his chair after it's over.
I'm having one.
He's like, I need tissues. I need to clean up. That's a rookie move.
I'm having one.
Yeah.
My God.
I liked this movie. I was very tired, so some of it will probably be lost on me. But I did enjoy it. Oh, why are you laughing? Do you like that?
It was funny.
There was one part that I think I wrote it down, and we'll get to it, where I was, it might be toward the end, where I was specifically thinking of you, Casey, because I was like, I feel like obviously this is about like serial killers, but they mentioned something that was very specific to like getting into the mind of a serial killer. So we'll get to it. I just...
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that Uncanny Valley makeup that people have been doing on social media?
Uncanny Valley makeup.
So it's like people on like TikTok and Instagram are doing their makeup. I can't describe it if you haven't seen it. But basically like...
Is it like to look like someone?
To look human, but almost not human.
Ew.
It looks... Mark
creepy.
Looks like that makeup. He fucking freaks me out.
Oh, my.
Do you see what I'm saying? He looks like that.
That is creepy.
Yeah, that's what he looks like.
Danny, Google Uncanny Valley makeup and then look at the first images. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that.
Oh, I don't like it.
He's pretty creepy. He's one of the creepiest people I think I've ever seen in a movie. It's also real weird, like his voice changes a lot, his inflection and his like, I don't know if it's purposeful or if he's just not good, but his accent changes a lot. Like, is he British? I don't know, because sometimes he sounds German.
He's German. He's German Austrian.
Okay.
Maybe it has something to do with him trying to like fit in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
he's
know
kind
if,
of like
I
aware
said,
of the fact that he's an outsider.
I don't know if it's. I don't even. Maybe it's just because I'm not used to hearing those accents.
Yeah.
That it just he always.
Well, he
sounded
did
weird.
say that he grew up in that building, so he grew up in London.
Yeah.
And yet, obviously,
So they
he's
just
not from, his native origins aren't, the UK. So maybe that was on purpose. We're supposed to see like.
I think they just didn't do a great job casting. Yeah. Well, they did because he is creepy, but.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was friends with Michael Powell, and after Michael Powell couldn't get the person that he wanted, the studios said no. They ended up casting Karl-Heinz Baum in the role.
Interesting.
He actually had a similar upbringing as his character, Mark Lewis.
Oh, really?
Where his, let me see here. I'm reading off of, he didn't get fucking lizards thrown on him, I don't think. But so this is from Wikipedia, and they are referencing the DVD of Peeping Tom, where Karl-Heinz Baum said he saw Lewis as a sympathetic character whom he felt great pity for. In a 2008 interview, Baum stated that he could identify with the character because he also stood for a long time in the shadow of his famous father, conductor Karl Baum, and had a difficult relationship with him. Baum also stated that he interpreted his character as being traumatized by growing up under the Nazi regime.
Oh, interesting.
So he actually did have a father who was pretty famous and probably difficult. So he kind of was perfect for the role.
That reminds me of, have you guys ever seen the Michael Haneke movie, The White Ribbon?
Mm-mm.
No.
It's all about this village where in Germany, and I believe it's Germany, and Germany, and these strange things start happening, like these really sadistic things around town. And you find out that it's the children who are committing these crimes. And then you find out later that these children in a few years will be the generation that grows up to be like Nazi leaders.
Oh.
So you're kind of seeing like how they were influenced to do what they did. So that's interesting to see like how he kind of took a similar route to kind of say like his just being like around that kind of influenced it. I don't know. It's like the oh, fuck my dick. What the hell was I trying to say? I don't know. It's like the cycle of violence, basically.
I've never heard of an expression like that kind of
so literal,
that
like,
kind of frustration. So literal, yeah.
Yeah, because normally it'd be like, "Fuck my fucking dumb face hole" or something. Just fuck my dick.
Also literal.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to think of something that wasn't. Fuck a duck. Fuck your stupid fucking brain. I don't know.
But no, I was just trying to make there was just like, I don't know, it reminded me of that movie because it was just like that idea of like the cycle of violence and how, like, is it taught? Is it natural? Is it, circumstantial and all that, which I just find really fascinating especially with characters like this. And obviously there's another character who's very similar to Mark Lewis, who is in a movie that was released literally the same year, which was Norman Bates in Psycho, which I'm sure is probably going to pop up a lot in our conversation, inevitably.
Yeah, released 2 months after this one.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's actually really depressing because this, you're talking about Michael Powell. This movie essentially ended his career.
Right.
And it's ironic because Alfred Hitchcock's career soared after Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why did this end his
is
career?
It because...
I think it was the critical response to this movie where they were just like, this is awful, this is disgusting, nobody needs to see this.
Beneath you.
And
if they could see what we have now.
Right.
I know.
Well, it's funny because Michael Powell and Alfred Hitchcock were apparently somewhat friends. They had known each other. And after seeing the critical response to Peeping Tom, Hitchcock decided to release Psycho without a press screening. And so it was the critics that bashed this movie. And basically, when you release a movie like that, or, it used to be the case, it sort of still is now with like Rotten Tomatoes, where it's like, if the critics bash it, then nobody, doesn't matter if it's good or not.
Now you've got like the sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, just like fucking Rotten Tomatoes. Oh God, I hate Rotten Tomatoes. But it's like, people will be like, oh, it got a fucking 17%. I'm not going to see that movie. Because like 3 fucking critics reviewed it and gave it bad reviews, whatever. Like, just watch the fucking movie. If you like it, you fucking like it. Sorry.
No, I'm with you. There have been so many times where I've found myself kind of like, almost like subconsciously kind of drawn or, like by reading a Rotten Tomato review. Like, I just can't help it because it just gets into your head where you're like, ugh, do I want to waste my time with this? These people clearly didn't like it. But then I'll watch movies that have low scores and I love it. Yeah. So it's like, why am I listening to? I never listen to people about movies. Like if they're gonna, unless it's like objectively horrible. So why do I let that? Yeah. But clearly that was the case with this movie too, and unfortunately it derailed.
I trust my friends because they know what I like.
Yeah, exactly. It should come from. It should be unique to you, like people who know you, not just some. Also, a lot of reviews. I don't want to shit on critics because I think there are like some really wonderful critics, and I think it's a really important art form, analyzing film and any kind of art. And it's tough. I actually don't know if I want to go too deep into it because I feel like I could just keep talking about it. And we're not here to talk about critics. We're here to talk about Peeping Toms.
But before we go further, I do want to talk about Siskel and Ebert for a second.
Oh, yeah. I love them.
Fucking Siskel and Ebert make me so mad. Okay. Because when I grew up, Siskel and Ebert, like they were like huge, right? When we were growing up and
at the movies,
that's what you would listen to. Kind of like they were like the Rotten Tomatoes of fucking the 90s, whatever.
Yeah.
And this movie Peeping Tom kind of had like a cult following, like revival, like 20 years later, 30 years later, after this was released, and people started praising it and saying how great it was. But it ultimately, like you said, Danny, like ruined Michael Powell's career when it was released.
Yeah.
So it makes me mad because I feel like if Siskel and Ebert would have seen this movie in 1960 when it came out, and they were like, this movie's trash, don't go see it, it's disgusting. Like when, I feel like they did the same thing with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They're like, or they did, they were very not friendly to horror movies, I will say.
They were very, I've been watching a lot of Siskel and Ebert old episodes lately. Ebert was much more fair to horror, but it depended on the horror. Siskel was like very unforgiving, but Ebert at least tried to understand what the movie was saying. But when it came to something like slasher movies, he was a little bit more judgmental.
Okay. Basically what I'm trying to say is that like, if he would have seen it back then, he would have been like, this movie sucks. But when he reviewed it, like in the 90s, he was like, oh, it's a classic and it makes us into voyeurs ourselves and blah, blah, blah. But
no, I know what you're saying though, because it's easier, especially like for a critic or anyone like making some like critical, like, I don't know, like making some critical opinion on it, especially something like a movie, and especially a horror movie. It's easier to reflect on something from the past than it is to comment on something from the present. Yeah. Because then it's almost like time, and culture changes and all of that. But also, I don't know, I don't want to speak for critics, but just in like a universally people talking about something, it's your reputation is probably less vulnerable if you're talking about something that happened 20 years ago that maybe everyone kind of maybe agrees with you on for the most part, than it is to have some like snap judgment of like, I loved this movie only to find out that everyone else hated it and you're a disgusting, Peeping Tom apologist because you liked it too. So I think culture has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
And trying to not I don't know, stir the pot too much. So I'm sure there was a lot to do with why people couldn't appreciate what this movie was doing, and maybe why it's easier to appreciate it in like a, retroactively.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, that was
because I think it's as important for this movie, especially because the critics ruined Michael Powell's career because they couldn't appreciate what he was trying to do. He didn't make some like snuff film.
Right.
Like this movie is also a movie. This movie doesn't glorify violence or sex or perversions or any of that. That's not what it's doing. It's trying to like put a light on it. I mean, literally put a camera on it. I mean, that's like the movie is so, that's why I love this movie. It's so like meta. It's I was going to mention later that like Scream owes a lot to this movie.
Okay. Yeah.
This is like a meta commentary on culture, pop culture, serial killers, the film industry, voyeurism, all of that. Mm-hmm. So it's actually very clever in what it's trying to do. And it's doing it in a way that's very, for the times, was like very subversive. And for critics to come out and say, we can't even acknowledge it because it disturbs us, it's kind of missing the point.
Well, it's funny because how influential it has become into just horror movies as we know it. And when it first came out, it just like you see that a lot where it's like things that are bashed and like, this is terrible, don't watch it, blah blah blah. And then years later, it's like, oh, that was fucking amazing, and now we make art like that today all the time.
I mean, you mentioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's a great example.
Yeah. And it's not just movies, it's all kinds of art and things. It's because it's different and new, and people are like, we fear change.
And then you wonder, is like, if it wasn't,
thanks, Wayne's World.
If these movies weren't reviled when they came out, would they have the reputation that they have later and then become classic? So it's sort of like, it's this weird, I mean, obviously, if it comes at the expense of someone's career, you don't want that. But sometimes that's the beauty and the horror of art.
It's like it needs to be hated in order to be appreciated later.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, are you guys ready to head to London and meet Mark Lewis, our Peeping Tom?
Jolly right. Jolly right, Pip.
Okay, so
Queso.
Queso, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so in Peeping Tom, there are 6 monster reveals, and we're going to cover each one, starting with the prostitute on the streets of London.
Mm. Oh, London town.
Prostitute.
The prostitute.
You sounded South African.
Yeah, not from London.
Just setting this up reminded me of, like, you may as well have been talking about Jack the Ripper.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And then I was wondering, what if it like popped in my head? I was like, what if instead of calling him Jack the Ripper, they called him Jack the Peeper?
Jack the Peeper.
Different his legacy would have been with that name.
Yeah, a lot different. Yeah.
Dude, am I the only one that thinks of Marshmallow Peeps when we say Peeping Tom?
Yeah, I haven't thought of it once.
And the funny thing is, I actively dislike Marshmallow Peeps.
Yeah.
I
do not like them. They are gross. But whenever we say peep, I think of a little Marshmallow Peep.
I hadn't, but from henceforth, I will, in your honor, only think of Peeps.
What if Mark
Peeps
Lewis was just a bunch of Marshmallow Peeps like stacked on top of each other wearing a trench coat?
The detective's like, there's something off about him.
Maybe that's why he looks like the Uncanny Valley, because they did makeup.
Oh, he is a peep. He just has makeup on.
Yeah.
They turned a bunch of peeps into a human.
That makes sense.
Is Mark Lewis the greatest actor alive?
Because he's just a bunch of Marshmallow Peeps.
Yeah, and he's still putting in this performance. Like, we're criticizing his accent changing, and yet he's literally just
Carl
Marshmallow.
Heinz, he's made out of sugar.
No, Mark Lewis.
Yeah.
Yes, just to be clear,
he's
Danny,
incredible.
Mark Lewis is the character. Karl-Heinz
Oh,
Baum
yes.
is the actor.
No, the actor became Peeps as the character just to play Mark Lewis.
Yes.
It's character acting, yeah.
But my first thought when I saw him kind of hide his camera, like the first thing we see is his eyeball, and then we see him hide his film camera in his jacket. And I was thinking, oh, he's just like a fucking street photographer. That's all he is.
Yeah.
Hiding his camera, taking pictures of people. What's wrong with that?
I mean,
right?
technically speaking,
But then he
it
takes
really
it to
is
another
just
level.
what he's doing. It's just what he's getting out of these photos is what is sets him apart. It's what makes him unique, you know?
And when he kills the subject matter, then that's also...
it's a little different, but I do love this opening. I do love how it sets up a kind of reveal that we get later on that is so subtle when he comes at her, and it's obviously from his POV, from the camera's POV, and it's coming after this woman, and you see that the flicker of light hit her face. Did you guys put it? Because I didn't put it together the first time I saw it.
I thought it was a knife.
That was.
I had no idea.
I thought it was a reflection off of a knife.
Oh, that makes
she
sense.
was screaming, so
That
she
makes
was
sense.
obviously scared. So I just thought that it was from a weapon.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was until the end.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. I love that there is like, it's not, I guess a reveal. It's not really a twist, but to find out that there is more to it than just this guy going around killing people. He has like, it's to him, it's like it's an art form. It's like, he's playing with the medium, which is really interesting.
No, it's funny though, because that ties him back to Jack from the house that Jack built.
Oh yeah.
Because he also,
interesting
with the art and things.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Does Patrick Bateman do anything unique with his victims?
I don't think so. He
Not
didn't even have
necessarily.
any victims.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He may have.
Patrick, you're full of shit. Yeah, or he did. He did or did. We don't know.
But yeah, that's a nice bookend to our triple feature.
Yeah. Yeah. So they all
That's
kind
a
of,
great point.
you know, and then Patrick Bateman is also similar to Jack in the OCD kind of ways. So they're all, you know,
they're all kind of
somewhat.
psycho.
Yeah. Weird, huh? Yeah.
But when you first see, the sequence of events, the sequence of shots, when this movie opens, it's like his eye, and then him hiding his camera under his jacket, and then the streets of London with the prostitute just standing there. And when that scene hit, you see the street with all the colors and everything. My brain said, wait a second, I've seen this before. And I said, what does this remind me of? And I said, oh, it is so similar, I think, to the album cover for David Bowie's The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, which came out.
Wow, that's such a great point.
In 1972. And I looked it up. It's a little different, but it is very similar.
My sister was a very big David Bowie fan, so we had a lot of David Bowie art floating around our house growing up.
Okay. So yeah, it's not exactly the same, but it kind of has that same feel, like those very saturated colors, and it's kind of...
Zach's like underselling it. It's literally a shot from the movie.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, did David Bowie take this shot, and use it as his album cover? He didn't, because it is different, but it has a very similar feel to it.
It also, I know it's not in London, but that reminds me of the Skid Row from Little Shop of Horrors.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, good eye, Zach. Good catch.
Hey, thanks.
Do you think the director said that, Michael Powell said that to the actor when he shot the first scene? And he's like, good eye. And it's a shot of his eye.
Ooh, you do have a good eye, Karl-Heinz. Karl-Heinz Baum. A lot of people credit this movie as kind of starting the whole first-person stalker thing in slasher movies.
Oh.
There's a great line. You know, I mentioned Scream earlier. And if anyone listening is familiar with Scream 4, Kirby Reed, played by Hayden Panettiere's character, she is on the phone with the killer, and he's doing the classic Ghostface like trivia. And he asks her which is the first movie to put the audience in the killer's POV.
Oh, did she say Friday the 13th?
Among them, well, I think she says Psycho.
Oh.
Yeah, she says Psycho. And he says that she's incorrect because he said none of the above. It was a trick question. It was Peeping Tom, which, Zach, you said came out 2 months prior to Psycho.
Yeah.
So she lost that by just a couple months by technicality.
Damn.
Well, she's lucky, isn't she?
Yeah.
Because she, spoiler alert, made it to part 5. Or 6.
6.
Well,
6.
technically 5 off screen. Oh, she was in 5. There's a little cameo.
Oh, yeah.
If you look closely, she's in a YouTube video.
That's right.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. Yeah. So Scream 7, what the hell is going on?
Yeah,
Oh, my
jeez.
goodness gracious.
Everybody's gone. Nobody's getting calls.
It's so messy.
Nev Campbell
done.
might come back. What's happening? But I wonder, like we're living in this Scream 7 craziness, and it's all social media, and everything's happening in front of us in real time all the time. You got to think like all these old franchises like Nightmare, or Friday the 13th, or something, like all the ups and downs behind the scenes that go on, and we just never knew about it, or
Totally.
you know what I mean? Because we didn't have the access that we have now. And so,
Yeah.
Like there may have been updates in the trades, but we weren't reading them, and
Right.
we weren't keeping up to date, and you didn't
Right.
get every person's opinion on it. And totally.
yeah.
That's a great point. So yeah, the franchise is going to survive. It's just whether, there's just, it's a little dirty right now. There's a lot, it's very messy.
Right.
So hopefully they can iron out those little creases and move forward.
Yes. So he follows this prostitute up into her room, which looks very similar. If you find out later, it looks very similar to his mother's bedroom in the house where Helen's room, I guess.
Good call.
Which was his
Good
mother's
catch.
bedroom. It's like there's the fireplace and the bed's just to the right of it, and
Yeah, they
I don't
probably
know
just
if that was
used the
just like
same room.
the same set. Yeah.
Cutting costs.
Yeah, it's the
That's
same thing
right.
with the accent. It's like, is it supposed to be? The director's like,
Yeah.
that's what it means. It's
Which I don't know what the significance would be.
symbolic.
Other, they just use the same set, but like this was just in some random building, and I don't think there's any connection there. But it looked the same to me. Then we cut to him watching the film back in his apartment, and like I said, I think he gets off, like because he stands
when
up
he
and
has
then he
one.
kind of. I'm having one. It's so funny to me. But then he kind of like slumps back down in his chair after like the climax of the kill,
Yeah.
I guess.
He
coming.
definitely He definitely shot some.
Ejaculated.
Yeah.
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 He gooed.
He gooed. That's okay.
He cranked the camera.
He gooed.
Ew. And okay,
I'm
and
gonna
that's
goo.
oh god.
No. Sorry.
Humans are gross.
Yeah. Yep. Indeed.
Talk about sexual repression.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. We just take a hard stance. We're like,
Pack
we
it away.
agree with
Don't talk
everything.
about it.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I love the shame in this movie.
Yeah.
And that brings us right into our second reveal. When we actually see Mark Lewis for the first time, he is filming the crime scene that he created the night before. And he's there with his camera. And that's when we first see his face and put the two together, that he was the one that did this.
It has one of my favorite lines in the movie, which at first, it's not that it went over my head. I just didn't think about it until I was making a note where he says, one of the detectives is like, which paper are you with? And he says, The Observer. I was like, oh, Observer.
Like, I get it. I see what you're doing.
He shouldn't have winked like 10 times right after dramatically to the detective after saying that.
They call that blinking, Danny.
He shouldn't have winked both eyes.
Yeah. But yeah, great intro.
Yeah, and we find out that he works for this like a newsstand, like a little news shop,
Some like corner store.
yeah. And the guys has hired him to shoot dirty pictures that he can sell to his customers, like that creepy old guy who wanted to see all
these pictures are not dirty.
Right.
But it's interesting because he is sort of presented as being kind of a creep, but in actuality, he's not doing anything outside of, what most people or, people who are sexually active would want to do. He's just buying some porn. It just happens to be in a period where it's frowned upon. Mm-hmm. And I think that scene is really important because this movie like circles a lot around shame. Like that's very prevalent in this movie. And obviously it's explored to very, in very like dark areas. Like it's obviously with Mark, it's similar to Norman Bates. It's like taking repression, but using it as a weapon, instead of being comfortable with who you are and like what you're interested in, et cetera. And I just thought this scene was really good in terms of kind of, I don't know, like setting up the thesis for the movie, I guess, for lack of a better way to describe that, where it's like repressed sexuality done in a way where we're supposed to laugh because it is treated to, it's supposed to be kind of funny, but it's kind of sad when you think about it. Yeah. The guy it even ends on like this funny button of the owner goes, well, he won't be doing the crossword tonight.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, he's going to jerk off. And like, that's okay. And like, the whole movie is about this guy who's so repressed that he's turned violent.
Yeah.
And it's like, if people could just like calm down and like let people just be themselves and stop trying to put on these, just trying to hide things and like conform and be so afraid and shameful.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have, this sort of response.
Are you guys familiar with Family Video?
Yeah.
What's Family Video?
It's a nationwide video store. It's like the last one that exists.
Oh no!
I think they're gone now.
We didn't have Family Video.
I worked at a Family Video, and they have a little porn room.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it was really weird when men would come back and say that they didn't work though, because then I'd have to like talk to them about what they were watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be like,
well, it's society has put it on itself. Like it creates the thing so that it can say, oh, you're dirty in this, but it's like you're the one making it that way when it doesn't have to be that way.
Exactly.
Because even
just
like
because one person's embarrassed. Yeah.
Right. Even the guy with the black book, and Casey, to your point about Family Video, I worked at a local video store, Film Fest Video. It was very local, mom and pop shop. And we had a black binder that had like just a list of movies, and someone would come in and ask for that, and you'd have to give them the binder, and then they would tell you which movie they wanted, and then we had them all behind the counter in black boxes, and you had to find it and give it to them, and then it was kind of like, can I see the book? You know what I mean?
I didn't know Film Fest did that. Ooh.
Yeah,
that's literally Zach. That's literally the scene from this movie.
Exactly,
it is.
Exactly.
Experienced
just
that.
a little bit more involved because it's DVDs instead of pictures.
Yeah. And so they would like stand, if you had like a line of people coming in renting movies, they would like stand to the side of the counter and like look through the book. And it was kind of
interesting.
Yeah, when I was a teenager, I was 19 working that thing, and it's kind of just like, they'd return the tapes, and I'd be like, oh, this is so disgusting. Like, I mean, yeah, there is some hygiene involved. Like, I don't know what was on those tapes.
Well, yeah, you're allowed to have a response to someone else having sex.
Well, yeah,
it's just a matter of whether or not
they just jerked it, and now they're touching these.
Totally, yeah, like
touching the videos.
Yeah, touching the thing.
Yeah,
it's probably covered in their cum. Goo.
But even like Pee Wee, Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman in the 90s when he was
doing
busted for jerking off in a porno theater. Like,
yeah, what do you want him to do?
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Like, yeah, like you're probably not supposed to do it because it's a public setting. But like, how many people do that?
Yeah,
probably. But the setting is
back in a porno theater,
staged for that.
Why are you going to watch porn in a movie theater?
Right. Right.
It's literally just that. Oh my God. There's so much to unpack there because that's just, yeah. I mean, that's like it's no different than a hate crime. You're setting someone up.
Yeah.
For,
that's the thing, like society
punishment
puts you in the position, forces you into that position for being a human being. And then they're like, fuck you, this is wrong, or you're dirty, or whatever. It's just, it's weird. It's weird.
I just read this. I didn't read the article. I read the headline because that's just what you do. And it said how Pope Francis was recently quoted in saying that sexual pleasure is a gift from God.
Okay.
And I wanted to be like, where the fuck were you on this discussion 50 years ago? Like, what the fuck? Like, I love that, you know, things should evolve and like the times are changing and people change with them. And that is healthy. And I don't want to, you know, kind of rain on that parade. But at the same time, so many people's lives were hurt because of this. And obviously, like as a gay man, it's hard not to reflect on like gay history and seeing what people in the LGBTQ community had to go through just because a few people decided that something upset them or it didn't, you know, line up with their personal values. Yeah. So it's just really upsetting. And that's why I do love, I mean, obviously I love movies like this and Psycho because it's like a fun thriller and it's, you know, staged well and all of that. And it's scary. But at the same time, like for them to be saying the things that they were saying at the time, it was just really significant, really important. And I appreciate them. And I laud the filmmakers, especially Michael Powell, who, you know, ultimately had to pay for trying to tell that kind of story. Right. Which is really sad.
It is. It is sad.
And that's also not to say that this character is a murderer and just because you're repressed does not give you the right to commit crimes.
Right.
Like I said, the movie's complex.
All right, let's talk about Tom and those peepers, huh? Jeepers, creepers.
Okay, so our third reveal is kind of like the psyche behind how he started to become this version of himself. It's when we see his film that his father made of him as a child. When he shows it to Helen, who is his downstairs neighbor, which we find out he's her landlord. But Helen comes up and he shows her this film as a present for her 21st birthday.
Yeah, man,
kind of a weird present, but he admits that he's never given a present before.
She asked to watch one of the films as her 21st birthday present, and I'm not sure about it, but this was probably the best one he could have chosen. So
all things considered.
So there's that, and also, I don't believe that Helen's 21.
No, and a giveaway for me that she may not be 21. I don't know, Casey. Are you thinking higher or lower?
Oh, higher.
Oh, higher? See, I'm thinking lower because she gets hyped up over some milk, which is fucking weird to me.
Yeah, adults don't like milk, right?
Well, no, but he's like, do you want some milk? And she's like, oh, yes, if you can spare some.
Oh,
like,
hey.
Yeah. Calm down.
She's like, do you have a lid? do you have sippy cups by any chance?
Man, my friend Stacy, she fucking loves milk.
Really?
Yeah.
How old is she?
She's 21? Like, if you got chocolate, I'm in.
How old is Stacy? Stacy's 34.
I know Stacy.
Why do you know that Stacy loves milk?
How do I know?
Isn't that like
prevalent
in her identity?
Yes. She's one of my closest. She's one of my best friends. She loves milk. She really does. She drinks.
I love horror movies, road trips, milk.
She drinks milk all the time. With ice.
Backpack.
Well, her and Helen would get along then.
I think it would get along.
Helen's probably dead.
And it does reinforce the fact that Helen can be 21 and still love milk. So,
speaking of Helen being dead, Helen, played by Anna Massey, was actually in The Machinist with Christian Bale.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Isn't that
weird?
Who
played Patrick Bateman.
Who played Patrick Bateman in our last feature, American Psycho,
whose son was Michael Powell, who directed Peeping Tom. No, I'm just kidding.
Anna Massey's son is older than her, who directed her in the movie. Casey, did you figure it out? Is she 21? I feel like you're on to it.
I'm looking at something, but hold on.
Okay, I can find out. Hold on.
No.
I got it. Don't you worry. Anna Massey.
37, 47, 57. She's 25.
Okay.
So they fucking lied to us.
They lied to us.
They always do, but I thought she was old. I mean, people just back then, I think, looked more mature.
They're like, how do we age her down to be believable as 21? It's like, give her milk.
Well, no.
She loves milk.
People,
The audience will believe that she's younger.
People back then like looked older than they were. They just looked more mature.
Yeah.
But I think part of it was like they wore different kind of makeup. They wore more modest clothing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like you have this weird in between period where like our generation all looked like fucking children until we were 25.
Totally.
And
Right.
we dressed like idiots and we always looked stupid. And now the generation that's currently children all look older than they actually are too.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm 35, and not that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm 35, like, wearing this, like, bright green sweatshirt and, you know, like, a hat. I don't know. When you think of someone in 1960, you look at these characters and they're wearing, like, these gorgeous, I mean, I kind of want to, like, sidestep my style and dress
They're
up.
wearing
Like,
suits and nice dresses and
yeah.
yeah.
They look wonderful, but it ages them up. And then they have hairstyles that also we associate with like people who are older.
Right.
So
the curls and the
kind of
roll.
hard
Yeah.
to-
Like I'm 34 and I have two styles. One of them is I wear crop tops, which is something that younger people wear, or I wear clothes that are way too big for me. So, you know, I'm always just dressed like
I
a
go
kid.
out every day just wearing like a nylon thong.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, oh wow,
yeah.
I thought he was
Like when you walk the dog.
older. Yeah.
Yeah. You walk the dog in a nylon thong and a oversized
Yeah.
green
I mean,
hoodie.
literally exactly what I'm wearing right now. The sweater,
Right.
and you just can't see the thong
Yeah.
because
Great.
we're sitting down.
Wonderful. Okay.
So hey, styles change, guys.
So Helen's 21. She asks to watch this video for her 21st birthday. And what a doozy. She should not have asked.
No.
So the video is basically the abuse that he suffered at the hands of his father growing up. And the first part, you know, it just shows him screaming and you don't know why. It doesn't show you why he's screaming, but he's very upset about something. And then later on, you find out that his dad put a lizard in his bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it looked kind of like I don't know much about lizards, but it looked kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, it was no Komodo dragon.
Well, he's basically
but-
doing
That's true. It's true.
what Mark does as an adult. He's like evoking an emotional
Yes,
response. He's
yes.
trying to, and he says how his dad like was studying fear and the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's like anything that'll like jolt, like get something. And then he just obviously does like the whole voyeur thing too, where he films
Right. And then,
everything, including his son.
you know, it shows like his dad gifting him his first camera. So, you know.
Yeah. And like that scene with the people kissing on the park bench.
Yeah.
Mark, when he's a kid, is like up on the brick wall, kind of looking over, and his dad is filming it. And so like if his dad wasn't there and he happened to like peek over and just see the people kissing, I feel like maybe there would have been just like giggle, you know, like they're doing something that's for adults and then like move on. But when he saw his dad filming everything, I feel like there was kind of a connection that he put together.
Well, he's like normalizing it for his son.
It's
He's giving
okay.
him permission to be a voyeur. He's like, I'm doing it. So it's 100%. It's crossing that line, and the dad does it first, which makes it easier for Mark to do it.
Well, once you're old enough to realize that it's not good, you've already been doing it for years. So
Totally.
yeah.
So Mark is like living in this world where he has to be sort of repressed, but then he's also kind of, because he's not, whereas I feel like, and maybe his dad was the same way, but like, whereas like Mark's dad is this voyeur, this peeping Tom who doesn't, you know, is trying to elicit these responses. Mark was also that, but also the victim of that. So it converges almost into him. Obviously that doesn't mean you're just gonna be a serial killer, but like you start to understand when you have like all the ingredients together of like why he is who he is.
Yeah. That's why I really liked this part of the movie, because there aren't very many movies, like slasher movies, where you actually see behind like what goes. You can speculate all you want and make assumptions and stuff, but there's never, they don't ever just show you a video of.
In some movies, it doesn't like work to the benefit of the story.
Not.
Like, you know, Halloween works because we don't know a lot about Michael Myers.
Right.
But I think it serves this particular type of movie.
Right.
It's like, it's a benefit. It just so happens to be for like,
I would say like in Rob Zombie's Halloween, to me, that ruined it when you see like
Yeah.
his family life and the dad's just like verbally abusive and all this stuff. And and it could just be, you know, that's, I mean, it's so loaded because that just could be, we know Halloween is what it is. And then when we see Rob Zombie's remake, it's
Right.
kind of like, ugh. So
but sometimes leaving it up to the imagination is a good thing.
Right. Exactly. So I guess I'm wondering if my criticism is because it was Rob Zombie changed the original Halloween, or if it's because, oh, now we know too much about Michael Myers, blah, 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 blah. I wonder where my criticism is coming from.
No, I think that's totally valid because it's hard to kind of separate it because you have so much history with someone like Michael Myers and just like the original Halloween. And I guess it just like comes down to like what the point of the movie is. Because you kind of, in Psycho, I guess they spend more time in the sequels kind of exploring his backstory. But it still works, I think, because it is about like why he does what he does. Whereas in Halloween, Dr. Loomis specifically points out the fact that like, you know, like he has the devil's eyes. Like we don't know why he does it. It is about mystery and the unknown. So it kind of, it defeats the purpose to explain it in that story. But in this one, you need it to understand it.
Yeah. The cycle of trauma, basically.
Yeah.
So this is, I think this would be a good time to, the psychiatrist later in this movie mentions this, but I think now would be a good time to talk about scoptophilia.
Yes.
As what the psychiatrist says when Mark asks him, how does one become a peeping Tom? So scoptophilia, according to Merriam-Webster, is a desire to look at sexually stimulating scenes, especially as a substitute for actual sexual participation.
So that's just watching porn.
Yeah. So is it really just about watching something for sexual pleasure? So being a peeping Tom is just also associated with watching porn?
So what I got was scopophilia without the T is about looking. Scoptophilia is about voyeurism.
So like looking without permission, basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
And getting some kind of, I would assume some kind of sexual pleasure from just watching.
Sexual gratification.
Right? That's scoptophilia.
Yes.
Like when he's going on a date with Helen and she makes him leave his camera and he stops, he sees those people making out and he just like stops and stares and he grabs his camera and she's like, Mark, it's okay.
I love that scene. It's so sad because you can see him like, it reminds me of like someone who actually has an addiction and you finally have someone who's sort of like standing to support you and they're like, they're, you know, like she is sort of, replacing the drug, so to speak. Yeah. And he cares for her enough to allow that to happen. And then she's also there to encourage him or to discourage him from giving into his addictions. And he, because in that scene, he even thanks her, which I was like, oh, like it's so sad because even though like you can't really fully sympathize with Mark because he is a serial killer. And that doesn't justify like just because he has like a dark past, it doesn't justify his actions. It is sad to see that if maybe he had that support sooner in his life,
yeah, of course,
it wouldn't have gotten so far. And you're like witnessing it after, and it's like it's all the more tragic,
right?
Also, we do find out in this when we meet the dad, like this reveal, Mark has a kink in this movie, and that kink is fear. That is, we don't kink shame, but
well, we will when it involves killing people to get off.
Yeah, exactly. We don't kink
I'll shame that motherfucker.
But there is an asterisk around that claim. Yeah,
yeah.
Also, in this scene, you get a lot of, you see like his dad always filming Mark, kind of just doing like random things, but specifically he mentions the fact that he recorded him during his mother's death, like all the way up to the funeral, and then also to who Mark refers to as his mom's successor, so his stepmom. But one line that kind of broke my heart is when you see how Mark has kind of he's lost so much humanity, and he refers to his mother's death as the quote unquote previous sequence when he's describing it to Helen, as opposed to saying this is the time my mom died. He said this is in the previous sequence.
Yeah.
So you see how like technical it all is. So when he is killing people, you can almost, if you were to like kind of get into the psyche and understand why he does what he does, there is this technical element to it as opposed to an emotional element, which is really sad.
Damn. Yeah.
And I can't help, I keep comparing it with Norman Bates, but like I feel like Norman is the opposite, where he is fueled purely by emotion.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an interesting, compare and contrast between the two.
Especially when it's crazy that they came out like at the same time.
It's so wild. Mm-hmm. It really just upsets me though. Like, we already talked about it, but just poor Michael Powell, really.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God his reputation. I mean, I wish his reputation, because you don't really hear, it's not like people talk about Michael Powell, I'm sure there's like smaller film circles of like big, movie nerds, but, everyone knows Alfred Hitchcock is a household name, whereas Michael Powell, who made something just as iconic as, and important, I would say, in film history, in the horror genre, as Hitchcock, is just kind of under the radar for the most part.
Right.
But what are you going to do?
Yep. Okay. Our next reveal. Mark kills Vivian.
Oh, shit.
AKA Reba McEntire.
Does she look like Reba?
I thought she did.
That's funny.
I know why you fucking killed her. That dance she was doing. What the fuck was that?
Oh my
I loved
God,
it. I do that every time I warm up to write. I put on that music.
Mike, I had the captions on, and every time she turned on that radio, it said upbeat jazz.
Upbeat
funny.
jazz accompanied by a really fucking dumb dance.
Oh, man. Yeah, Vivian, chill out with those dance moves. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
We know your guys' real monster. Upbeat jazz.
Maybe.
So during this sequence here, when it was very suspenseful, because we all kind of know what he's going to do, but
Right.
it just keeps building up. And there were so many like powerful shots of Mark in this scene, just from filmed from underneath.
When he's, oh my God, when he's descending from the rig, I don't know what you would call that platform that he's on.
Like the crane. It's kind of like a crane.
Yeah, and he just reveals himself to her.
Uh-huh.
That may be my favorite shot in the movie.
Okay. Yeah, great reveal.
Like so much power, and like, he is on a set now. So like he is the
he's
quote
the
unquote director.
Yeah.
And he's like this godly presence sort of like raining down on his victim. And like, I know exactly what I'm going to do to you. I'm going to get away with it. And you have no idea.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny to see him like in contrast to the actual director of the movie that he's working on, who's just kind of just like, I don't know if erratic is the right word, but he's like, again. No, that's not right. Again. And he's like, we need more of this. We need more of that. And then, and then Mark is Stanley Kubrick, who's just like, oh, wait, are you saying the other guy is Stanley Kubrick?
Yeah, the actual director is Stanley Kubrick.
Oh, for the repetition.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
He's a Stanley Kubrick wannabe.
Yeah.
He's repetitive because he's a clown as opposed to being a perfectionist.
Well, I heard the other day why David Fincher does so many takes. Have you guys heard this?
No.
So Fincher is notorious for doing like 80 takes of a scene. And what he said is that like when an actor of like a high caliber, an actor, like a really good actor is coming to work for him, they'll have read the scene, they'll have prepared, they'll have like, they know what they're doing. And he tries to break them of that because they'll get there and they have it in their head how they want to do it. And he wants to strip all that away and just get down to like the natural bits.
He wants it to be more organic.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Which is,
Because the more you rehearse something, I mean, it's rehearsed.
Right.
It becomes rehearsed. Yeah, totally.
You know what I love? I love it when they find her body.
Yeah.
Because that was cool.
That's another great use of suspense where it's like not even played for scares, but the concept of suspense still works just as effectively.
Yeah. And it's more of his voyeurism too, because he not only likes to see the fear on the people's faces when he kills them, but he likes to see what the reactions of the people are when they find them.
Yeah.
I love that scene when they do find the body, because he can't help himself. He has to, because I don't even think because he wasn't anticipating the fact that they would find it. Because when they mention the fact that they're going to use the blue trunk where the body is, he lights up, and then he grabs his camera and films it. And it's sort of like, you can't help it. It's like when you're watching Jack or in The House That Jack Built, where you're not rooting for them, but you can't help, like Zach, you mentioned when he's climbing across to get across the pit. You can't help because you're in their, for lack, because there's literally POV in this movie, but you're in their POV, so you can't help but empathize with them a little bit, and kind of share that suspense and attach it to them. But at the same time, you're like not rooting for them. I don't know. It's just, I was like, don't take your camera out. They're going to know.
Yeah. And there are killers that do like, there were a couple of things in this movie. There's that, like, there are killers who do like to see people's reactions when they find the bodies. And then there was the part earlier after they find the first woman that he killed, and he's in that store with the newspapers, and he just like spreads them all out.
Oh yeah,
to look at them because it's on the front page. Yeah, I liked that part.
Oh yeah, no, that was cool. And this is where we first see what he is using to kill his victims. Is when he takes the end off his tripod and there's a big blade on the end of it.
Yeah.
There was, I may be looking way too deeply into this, but in that scene when Vivian does her little dumb dance, I was just wondering, like, what was the significance of this kill? Because she's a stand-in, so she's not the main actress, but she wants to be. She wants to, it's this idea of like wanting to be in front of the camera, wanting to be, the center of attention. And then I don't know, I was trying to, and it might be a stretch, but I was trying to make this connection with this idea of the people, like we were talking about, who kind of make the rules that like dictate, social norms and repression and like what is acceptable, which in a sense is very performative, because we all have natural urges and needs and whatnot. Like this, like for the sake of the survival of the human race, you gotta fuck. And
fuck that dick.
For her to like do this, like, gotta fuck that dick, but like, and then in this scene, Vivian's literally she's putting on a performance, and it's not until she's sort of like confronted with her fate, like with like what is like kind of like a basic emotion, which is what he's evoking from his victims before he kills them, which he's trying to let them see real fear. It's like he's forcing them to look at it before he kills them and forces them to like pay for it. I just thought that was really, if that was, again, might be a stretch, but I thought it was an interesting way to kind of present that, to show like it is kind of all song and dance and perform, and we're all being so performative, but at the end of the day, like your natural instincts and will ultimately overpower this performance, this song and dance in the end when push comes to shove.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like he wants to be a director, and that's like a big thing of, all these great directors, that they would find these ways and push their actors to get real performances out of them, instead of just that rehearsed kind of
100%.
I'm on the screen. Here's what people want to see. Yeah.
Like the fact that this movie's set, it includes cameras and film sets, and it's not an accident. Yeah. And I think that's what makes it so interesting, because it's so on the nose and what it's trying to say.
Or on the throat. Ding. That was the knife hitting the throat.
Oh, yeah, I thought so.
I thought that was like a good point. Mark has a good point on his
tripod
weapon. What if all of his victims say that right before? She's like, "Oh, that's a good point," and they laugh. He's like, "No, you're supposed to be afraid before I kill you."
And they blink at the camera again.
He's like, "Damn it, that's not what I wanted."
Stop blinking.
He's like, "Okay, we're gonna do that again," and she's just dead. She's like, "Damn it, forgot how final this was."
And then we get our next reveal of when Mrs. Stevens, Helen's mom, kind of finds out that Mark has some kind of issues going on.
Yeah, she doesn't trust him.
She knew before,
she knew before, yeah, but this is kind of like there's more to it than she initially thought, I think.
Yeah.
Or like her suspicions are
Valid.
valid. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's when he's watching the film of that he took of Vivian when he killed her that didn't come out the way he wanted it to. And so then he kind of freaks out and he's like, oh, I need somebody else. Let me use this poor unsuspecting blind woman. Well, I shouldn't say unsuspecting. She knows something's up.
Maybe the most suspecting.
The most suspecting. Yeah. But then he doesn't go through with that. He backs out because he's such a complicated character because he has a conscience. It seems like.
I mean, slightly. I think it's different because it's Helen's mom and he likes Helen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
but there is a push and pull for him to even like Helen.
Doesn't mean he has a conscience. I don't know.
Well, because like he knows, I mean, having a conscience, right, is like knowing what's right and wrong.
Well, sure. But that's also the definition of like insanity too.
Okay.
Like that would mean that every killer has a conscience because very, very, very rarely are they actually found insane rather than guilty. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. So
it's
they
like
know what they're doing.
Yes.
They know what they're doing is wrong.
Right. When you go to court, if you plead insanity, the only way you can get away with it is if the court finds that you don't know the definition between right and wrong.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
Okay.
Huh.
So they've all got a conscience. They don't kill everybody. You know, we talked about this last time. They don't kill everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So.
I don't know what I was talking about.
Saying that he had a conscience because he didn't actually kill Helen's mother.
Right.
Like why? Okay. Why? What is it about Helen
I don't fucking know.
that is enough for him to not
likes
want
milk.
to kill her? Is it?
She likes milk. He knows she's healthy. Which
She's got strong bones.
I don't think drinking milk is that healthy for you, but
It's not.
Because does it have something to do with the fact that like his victims tend to be people who sort of put themselves out there, you know, like sex workers, prostitutes, actors.
I mean, yeah, maybe. That's the thing is like, even serial killers can love people. You know what I mean? Even serial killers have families. They have wives and children and, you know, so, you know, they can still have, not all of them are complete sociopaths that don't have any feelings, you know? So they can develop feelings for people just like anybody else could.
Okay.
And I think he would be a prime example of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kind of, Danny, like you were saying earlier, it's almost like an addiction, which is kind of a disease.
Killing is, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so he knows it's wrong, but he can't help it. And so he basically lives a normal life other than that.
Yeah. He's not like unaware of things. Like he can still function.
Yeah.
He just has this thing. Yeah.
Go back to Buffalo Bill. Remember, he felt bad for killing those people, but he still killed them.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay. So Mark is a product killer or what was the other one?
Process
killer. He would be process.
He's a process killer because he likes the fear. But at the same time, he does like when they find people, but I'm not sure if that necessarily falls into the category of
it's almost like an extension of the process.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. He's a process killer because he likes to watch them. You know, he records himself killing them and then watches them again. He likes the fear and stuff like that. So.
Okay. But then watching it back on his films, making a film, wouldn't that be a product?
No, because he doesn't like the dead body. So the product killers are like Jeffrey Dahmer, who likes to have sex with the dead bodies and eat them and stuff like that.
He likes the human emotion that they're
evoking. He likes the process of
happens.
killing too.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
He has this great quote, which, to be honest, is like it stood out to me, and I'm still kind of trying to process. I'm still trying to product what he's saying. He says, instinct's a wonderful thing. Or he says it or Mrs. Stevens says it. I don't know. And I don't think it matters. But they say, instinct's a wonderful thing. Pity it can't be photographed. So I just thought that was really interesting, too, that Mrs. Stevens is also very aware of this. Like, maybe she understands Mark a little bit. Like, I get that you're this broken guy who's clearly closed off in his world. And she seems to have known the father, too. So maybe she has a little bit more insight into like who Mark grew up with and how he was influenced.
Yeah. And that's why she's like, stay away from my daughter.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I understand you, but fuck off.
Yeah. She can always tell like when he's in the window.
So creepy.
Oh, yeah.
I love how I love Mrs. Stevens. She's probably my favorite character in the movie. Because it's this idea of like the fact that she's blind is kind of like telling us like you don't need to see something to understand it necessarily, which is really interesting.
I feel like there's some kind of connection between them because like whenever they're pouring drinks, there's two transitions of when someone's pouring a drink. And I think it's Mark pouring the drink or a chemical that it like pours the drink and then it transitions into Mrs. Stevens pouring whiskey.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
then
when
later,
he's developing a film.
There's more, she pours whiskey and then it transitions back into him pouring chemical into...
Well, she does drink a lot. I wonder if there's something to do with like addiction and, you know, kind of being held by this process, you know, like the fact that she's kind of, when she's overwhelmed or stressed, she just turns to her whiskey. And when he's kind of overwhelmed, he turns to his process, and both are kind of like self-harming. So maybe there's something
kind of
that.
Kind of. Yeah, that could be for sure.
Yeah, that's a good catch. And on to our final reveal.
Yes.
And who is it?
It's when Helen watches the film that he's been making, and it is revealed to her that Mark is what he is. And he tells her all about his problem.
Yeah.
And things get a little intense.
Yeah, this is very strange to me. They've been flirting with each other for like a week, right?
Yeah, it hasn't been
and
very
she's
long.
like,
they're in love.
She's like, okay, kind of like, she's like, tell me what's the matter. And it's like, no, you should say, what the fuck? And then you should probably leave. Like,
yeah, he like plays all these recordings of her. He's like, every room in this house is bugged and I've been recording you. And she like hugs him and she's like, tell me why.
Tell me why. What's happening? And they're all like breathing really heavily and like, like, I don't know. It's so weird.
Yeah. And he's like, don't let me see you frightened. He's like, don't let me see your face.
Yeah. I'll fucking I'll goo. But yeah, I'm like, guys, come on. I mean, if you know, like, I can understand some people ignore red flags, but this is a big one. This is a big red flag. This man is murdering people. He's
was that kind of what attracted to him in the first place? Is that she was so caring and like sympathetic?
Probably, but I'm talking about on her part.
That's what I'm saying. Like now we see like there's actually
but I'm caring and sympathetic too. I'm caring and sympathetic too, but if I found out that I was flirting with a man for a week and he told me he was a killer, I probably would never talk to him again. Probably.
Yeah.
And they haven't had sex yet, so
if you're a killer, that's something you should lead with. Be like,
just
so you know,
they haven't even had sex yet. So it's like she can't even blame it being on the dick, you know, like
full
the dick's
disclosure.
not good enough, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Damn.
I don't know. You never. There's sometimes the dick do hit. You know what I mean?
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying is they haven't had sex yet. I agree, Danny. I agree. I will overlook red flags if the sex is good enough. Yes, absolutely. But they haven't had sex yet. That's what I'm saying. So the dick do not hit.
The dick do hit, but the dick did not hit.
The dick did not hit in this situation.
I do love. Again, I love this movie so much, and there's a lot of just shots that I love. But I thought it was just like so smart that when she sees the tapes, we don't see the tapes. We only see her reaction because that's like the whole point of the movie. Like such a little detail. So beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of reactions, this is where we see that finally see what that light is that is shining on everybody's faces. It is a mirror, which is like concave or convex mirror or something. Yeah. It's like warped in some way that like they see their face, but it's all twisted and they see their own face when there's a blade coming at them, but it's all twisted and mangled and just creepy.
Yeah, and he says fear is the most frightening thing in the world. So then for him to force his victims to stare at their own fear before they die is like poetic and disturbing. And
Yeah.
But the cops... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, no, it's not technically part of the reveal, but he fucking stabs himself in the throat.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, I'm afraid, and I'm glad I'm afraid.
Fucking psycho.
Does it have something to do with, like, again, like there's the addiction thing. So it's like maybe he found a window for him to kind of beat the addiction, and the only way to beat it was to kind of like end himself.
Well, I mean, that's why a lot of people that are addicts commit suicide.
Yeah. But it felt like it was coming from a place of like empathy, which seemed unique for him. Like maybe Mark was naturally empathetic as like a child before his dad like fucked him up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that in his final moments, maybe he was able to kind of be his pure self rather than his, like what his dad kind of made him. So it like just makes it all the more tragic, but is also kind of is like a commentary on like what his voyeurism and everything like represented in the first place.
Yeah.
Weird that it ends on the dad's voiceover where he says, "Don't be silly. There's nothing to be afraid of."
Why weird? I think that's cool.
Well, I was trying to figure out like what it meant, like in the context of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, is he saying like, is he kind of shaming emotion? You know, because fear is like a basic thing, and he's telling a child like, "Don't do that. That's silly. It's silly to feel these things."
And it's weird because that was his whole exploration, was that he was studying the effects of fear in children.
Yeah. So exactly. So it's like he's like pulling this emotion out of him. He's forcing him to confront it, and then he's shaming him for feeling it. So Mark
it's
is
kind of
constantly
the same.
at this like
It's kind of like we were talking about society, like putting all these things in place so that just with natural,
you're set
people
up
have
for
natural
failure.
needs.
Yeah.
They put all these roadblocks in place, and then when you try to fulfill one of your human basic needs, they're like, "No, that's
100%.
bad." So it's kind of like the dad. Yeah, he's like, "Be afraid, be afraid." Don't be afraid.
Yeah, don't be afraid,
little bitch.
And not only don't be afraid, but like, you're
bitch
you're
boy.
a little bitch. You're a bitch. You're scared. Oh, you scared? You're a bitch.
You scared?
What if that
Well,
was
it's just
the
a little
last line?
lizard.
Oh, you scared? You're just a little bitch. Credits. Wait,
Instead
where did that come from?
of
The dad took a
there's
turn.
nothing to be afraid of. You little bitch.
You little bitch.
Do you remember Mortal Kombat? I don't know if it was 2 or 1 or 2 or whatever. You'd like do something with Scorpion with the fire, and the guy would pop up in the corner of the screen, and he'd say "Toasty."
No. Wow.
You don't remember that? That's why I want like Mark's dad to pop up and be like, "You little bitch, little bitch,
Bitches."
Oh God! All right, well that's Peeping Tom in a celluloid frame. I always try to think of fun things instead of nutshell.
Butt shell.
Butt shell. That's Peeping Tom in a butt shell.
Turtles in a butt shell.
Turtles in
Turtle
a butt
power.
shell.
Were you gonna say that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Turtles in a
That's
butt
funny.
shell. Oh my God. Okay, so that is Peeping Tom. Okay, so now let's take a vote on our favorite reveals of Peeping Tom.
What's going on here? I don't see anything anywhere. That's how they get you. They're under the goddamn ground.
Okay, Casey, what is your favorite reveal from
I
Peeping
think
Tom?
it's got to be the last one because you actually see the mirror and you actually get
Yeah.
the full idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
Ah, damn it.
So-
That's a good point.
So just to recap, we've got the reveal to the prostitute at the beginning. We've got the first time we see his face recording this crime scene the next day.
So like our reveal of him.
Our reveal to him.
Or his reveal to us or whatever.
Yeah. We've got the childhood film from his father. We've got Mark killing Vivian. We've got Mrs. Stevens' interaction with him. We've got our honorable mention of Millie, which is off screen. And then we have when Helen sees the film at the end, and it's the big reveal of his whole setup with the mirror and everything like that. So Casey, you're going with the final reveal.
Yes.
Danny, what about you?
Damn it. I wrote down the Vivian scene specifically for that shot of him descending on the I keep calling it a rig. What is that?
Well, it's sort of like a crane. It's like the platform that like the crane would be on, or
so descending
the
from
crane would have the camera on it, but it's like where they would stand.
Okay. So yeah, I originally had the Vivian scene where Mark is descending from the crane because I just loved as like a reveal of him as the monster and like what that kind of that visualization, what it represents. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, Casey mentions seeing the reveal of like, it's so good, that shot and like that, the image of Helen's face and the warped mirror.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with the Vivian scene of just in terms of like meeting him as the monster. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like that kind of encapsulated a lot of what I liked in the movie. Even though I love everything about this movie, but I'm gonna pick the Vivian scene. Yeah.
Okay.
I also think it's interesting in the final scene too. Like you said, he shows Helen the mirror and stuff, but she's like the only victim that gets to see that. She doesn't die.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
She's kind of like the final girl.
Yeah, and she got to see like the face of her own,
because they loved each other after a week
and still survived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After not receiving any dickage in the mail.
No dickage. The girl's in love.
She didn't get dicked, but she did get clicked.
Ooh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he says. He's like, you want to get clicked or dicked?
Well, she wanted those pictures for her children's book, so.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, true. I'm going to go with the final reveal, too. That scene with the mirror. It's just, it's pretty horrific.
Pretty horrific.
All right, well, now it's time for a segment that we like to call The Real Monster.
Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man.
You're a monster.
I'm not the monster here. You are. You and the rest of that fairy tale trash poisoning my perfect world. Now tell me, where are the others?
Eat me.
Danny, why don't you start us off with your real monster?
I've got two.
Okay.
The first one is basically everyone who played some kind of role in ruining Michael Powell's career.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like the movie's literally a commentary on repression and shame, and that's exactly how they behaved in response to it. So,
okay. Yep.
I don't know, like looking back at it, like retroactively, you could kind of pull like a beautiful narrative out of it, and it's fascinating. But at the time, and still, it's just very sad. So yeah, fuck them. Mm-hmm. My second is
rightfully so.
Trunks that don't unlock from the inside.
Ooh.
I've seen so many movies where like, you know, like what was that movie about the fucking A. But what's the movie with Michelle Pfeiffer and
Batman Returns?
No,
What Lies
Beneath?
No, it's like the ocean at the end.
The Titanic.
Between two oceans. Who's the actor from Hair?
Which actor?
Treat
Williams.
Not
Treat
Trip.
Williams.
Treat Williams. Yeah. Michelle Pfeiffer. She loses her son. And before she loses the son, there's a scene where the brothers are playing and the older brother.
The deep end of the ocean.
The deep end of the ocean. Kids don't get lost, people lose them. I always loved that line in the trailer as a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, he locks the brother in the trunk. And I remember, as someone who has severe claustrophobia, as noted in our Biggest Fears triple feature series, where my biggest fear was claustrophobia, and we watched the movie Devil. because they're stuck in claustrophobic inside an elevator. Put a little safety little thing in there. If you get locked in, you go, pop it open.
Yeah.
Not that it would have helped this Vivian if she was dead, but
No, she did.
It's just scary. That's it.
Yeah. Because they have those like in trunks, right? In car trunks,
Like
you
car
can open
trunks,
from the inside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple safety mechanism. What are you doing, trunk builders?
You're gonna close someone in. A body can fit in it. You should have an easy out.
Yeah, but it wouldn't actually be that easy because if you think about it, it's like a regular, like a car trunk is spring loaded, so you can connect it to open from both sides, but you can't do that with a trunk because they're buckled.
We should reinvent trunks.
Spring load those bitches.
Yeah, we need spring loaded trunks.
Okay. Okay, I have two real monsters. I have studio executives, right? The one in this movie, when we first go to the film set that we find out that Mark Lewis is working on, and the executive says, due to the economy, if you can see it and hear it, the first take is okay. So basically he's like, the economy sucks. We can't spend money on film. There's no more than one take. If you can see it and you can hear it, print it, move on. Which is bullshit, because how do you make art like
It's
that?
art.
True.
It's art.
It's not a machine.
And my second real monster is Vivian, for her lack of on-set safety.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She does her little dance move, her little crazy upbeat jazz number. And while she's doing that, she's doing things like spinning lights. Like she's got like these, I don't know. It just seemed very dangerous.
Yeah.
As Aerosmith would have said, she's living on the edge.
She's living on the edge. Yeah.
Vivian, Vivian was like, she's a troublemaker in this movie. She got
is.
the annoying jazz music. She's not safe.
Not safe.
She has
at all.
no idea that this guy is clearly just preparing to murder her, is about to murder her. Like no self-awareness.
Right.
Okay.
Casey, who do you have for real monster?
I have three. The first one, as we stated earlier, is Vivian, but it's for her dance moves because they're atrocious. My second one is Helen's mom. I can't remember her name.
Mrs.
Stevens.
Oh, that's it. Okay. Well,
I
my
don't know if they say
second,
her first name.
It's Mrs. Stevens or Stephen Mrs.
my
Yes.
second one is Mrs. Stevens because she's a liar. She's a dirty alcoholic. She says,
what'd she lie about?
because she's sitting there with her whiskey and Helen says something to her about not drinking too much. And she says, if you're back in 5 minutes, I won't even have finished this. And then as soon as Helen turns around, she fucking chugs her glass of whiskey and pours
She
some more.
downs it. Yeah.
Mrs. Stevens.
Dirty bitch. And my third real monster is the director of the movie, because after that actress found a dead body, how do you just expect her just to come back and just keep going?
Yeah. And like she sees the body and faints, and he's like, "Oh, she fainted in the wrong scene."
Yeah. And then they come right back and he's like, all right, we're just doing hats now. And he's really, really upset that she can't just power
Maybe
through
directors
Yeah.
in general are the real monster in this episode.
Well,
like
yeah.
Yeah, it could
Mark, the real director, the dad, everyone trying to dictate like
Yeah.
scenes and sequences.
be. Yeah.
be. And then the director even goes to the psychiatrist and he's like, "How can we fix this?" And he's like, "Oh, you're going to need like months of therapy."
Yeah.
Yeah, Danny, good point. Maybe it is directors. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
Man. Okay. Well, that is all we have for Peeping Tom. And that is all we have for our Silver Screen Slashers triple feature.
We did it.
If you guys have seen Peeping Tom and you want to talk about it more, find us on social media. How I Met Your Monster on Facebook, Instagram, X. We're even on TikTok at How I Met Your Monster. So share
And
your
OnlyFans.
thoughts and feelings with Peeping Tom. Yes, we will be on OnlyFans, a secret account. If you can find us, good luck.
Yeah.
Make sure to join us for our newest triple feature, which will be arriving shortly. Casey, what is our subject of discussion?
Our next triple feature is that a possession in your pocket, or are you just happy to see? I don't remember what we actually decided on.
Working title.
I don't remember what we actually decided on.
I think we are calling our next triple feature Under the Influence.
Oh, okay. Our next
Not to be confused with, is that a demon in your pocket or are you just possessed?
Is that what it was? Is that okay? Okay. Well, either way. So yeah, our next triple feature is Under the Influence, and we are covering possession movies.
That's right.
I can't wait.
That's right.
Yeah.
What possessed you to come up with that?
Good one, Danny. We will be covering Night of the Demons, followed by The Dark and the Wicked, and wrapping it up nicely with Talk to Me.
Yeah. I think this might be my favorite triple feature ever.
This is a pretty good lineup, you guys.
Because The Dark and the Wicked and Talk to Me are like two of my favorite movies.
And I haven't seen Night of the Demons since I was a wee lad.
Yeah,
and
same.
Angela scared me.
Yeah.
Not even just scared me in the movie, but the VHS.
Oh my God.
Artwork.
The Night of the Demons 1, 2, and 3 all feature Angela on the front. And they were like
so scary.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. Maybe one of the scariest images of my childhood. Like, I could not look at that tape, but I watched the movie all the time. Fucked up.
Yeah,
very
excited to watch it
iconic in my child video store excursions. Seeing those tapes on the shelf. Oh my God.
Oh, what a good lineup. We got, fun, campy horror, Dark and the Wicked, which I have not seen, but I'm being told is pretty dark and disturbing.
Yeah.
And then Talk to Me, which I did watch recently, which is dark and disturbing, but also fun. So we're getting a good
I still have yet to see it, so I'm excited to watch it.
I can't wait for you to watch it, Zach.
Okay, yeah. So make sure to join us for our Under the Influence triple feature. And until then, where can our listeners find you guys on social media?
I am on Instagram at WolfMotherCasey.
Awesome. Danny?
I'm on various social media platforms under my name, Danny Salem, DANNYSALEMME. Melt in your butt, not in your hands. And if you find Miller attached to the end of it, it's also me, because sometimes I go by that, sometimes I don't. Because
why are you laughing? Like he doesn't say this every week.
It's so complicated.
Because he didn't say anything about M&Ms. He just said Danny Miller, melt in your butt, not in your hand. He just said Danny Salem, melt in your butt, not in your hand.
Oh, he didn't say two M's like
now I want M&Ms.
Oh.
Yeah. So, Danny, make sure you mention the M&Ms next time.
Or I would never mention them anymore. My name's Danny Salem, melt in your butt.
And you can find me on social media at Zach Winsick. Thank you all for listening. Now, go meet some monsters.